What is up, people? Today we are going to be talking about Guild Wars 2 and what it takes to get from your very first level 1 little character to this level 80 monstrosity with ascended gear and legendaries and full achievements and all that shit. This is for the newest of the new, the oldest of the old, and everything in between. We're going to talk about what it takes to get where you want to be. So let's get right into it. So, the first thing you gotta do, if you want to be the best, is get to level 80. Now, obviously this takes a lot of things to actually get done. First of all, you need to find the class, and it's technically called profession, but whatever it is, you need to find the one that fits you the best. Now, this can take some time. I actually played quite a few characters to the 30s and 40s before I really settled in on the character specialization I liked the best. So you have to find the one you're good at and the one that you have fun with. If you don't have fun with a class, you done fucked, kid, because if you don't have fun playing the game, you're never going to get through the shit that comes later on when shit really gets real. So find a class that you really like the playstyle of and you find really fun to play. Once you do that, the grind to 80 can begin. Now, the grind gets really, really boring if you don't use everything at your disposal. I was one of the ones who actually only did the quests and the PvE exploration all the way up to 80 on my first character, and after about level 40, I was getting really fucking bored. So, utilize everything at your disposal when it comes to leveling. Your quests, your crafting gives you huge amounts of experience, world events, exploring the map, world versus world, dungeons, your personal story. These are all ways you can make immense amounts of experience and change up what you do so that shit doesn't get really, really boring. And if you do a mix of all that stuff, getting to 80 should not really be that hard for you. So, those are all sorts of things you can do to get that experience. Though, you also want to make sure you're always doing your dailies and your monthlies. Those are the things in the top right that obviously say daily and monthly. You want to do those every day because they give you laurels, which is a type of currency that we will talk about a little later on. And you also, like I said, want to do your best to learn every aspect of your character. Now, more than likely, the build you use while you're leveling is not going to be the build you're going to use once you hit level 80. So don't take that into consideration. When I was leveling my Necromancer, I used a very heavy pet build, and once I hit 80, I completely changed it. So the build you're using as you level is probably not the build you're going to use at the end game. So don't worry about that, just try to learn the best skills of your class, learn as much as you can about them through forums and stuff, and without much time put into it, you should hit 80 fairly quickly. Hit 80, a whole world of options opens up to you. You can do all the world events, you can do all the dungeons at this point, and you can explore everywhere on the map. You also get access to the Living Story, which is released every 2 weeks. They add new content, new storylines, good fun stuff that you can do if you're into like a constant quest line that never ends. At this point, you're probably going to have that level 80 fever. You're going to be having a lot of fun. So I recommend highly that you use that to its fullest advantage while you have it, because the level 80 fever does wear off pretty quickly. But at this point, you should start figuring out, you should already have an idea of how you like your character being played, but you should really start figuring that out and figure out whether your character is going to be a very damage-oriented character, whether it's going to be a very tanky character, or whether it's going to be more of a support where it buffs everyone else and makes the team better as a whole. Once you decide that, do a lot of research, look at what stats you're going to want on your armor, and then begin your grind to get the exotic gear. Exotic gear is not that hard to get. It's really one of the first things you should check off your list of things to do once you hit 80, and there's a ton of ways to get exotic gear. You have dungeons, which, as long as you know which dungeons give you the correct armor, go do those dungeons. Each dungeon usually has at least one easy path, so do that. World events will sometimes drop exotics. and they're also pretty fun to do for a little while, and there's always a world event going on somewhere. Those who have high enough crafting will be able to make their exotics, obviously, and then those with enough gold will obviously be able to buy their exotics. World vs. World has ways to get exotic gear. There's tons of ways to get exotic gear. That's what I'm getting at. So find ways that are fun for you, and try to get exotic gear with the stats you want. And then, like I said, just enjoy being level 80, because once you get your exotics and all that, the next part is where things start to get really complicated. Now, this is the part of the game that trumps almost everybody when they're on their way to the best. The 80 level fever has worn off, you've gotten your exotic gear, you're doing pretty well, but now you want to be the best. But to be the best, you have to put in a lot of time, have a lot of patience, and honestly, if you can pull this off, I fucking applaud you, because I could never do it. Even up to the extent I've done now is mad irritating. So once you've figured out which build you're going to go with, and like, you are completely sure, because once you start this process, reversing direction can be a bitch the farther on you get. You need to start getting your Ascended gear. Your Ascended gear is the top of the line gear. So the first thing you usually want to start off with is getting your trinkets. Your trinkets are pretty easy to get. All you really have to do is run some Fractals of the Mist on, I think you need to be level 10 or higher. You run Fractals of the Mist, you get some pristine fractal relics, start getting your trinkets. Also, those dailies and monthlies you should have been doing, and those laurels you should be getting, you can now use those to buy your Ascended gear. Those trinkets, and, you know, those types of things. Ascended back items, a little harder to come by. You can look up ways to get them. There is one for Fractals of the Mist if you work your way through it. I recommend doing that, because you do want full Ascended gear to be the best. Ascended weapons and armor, you can get some from Fractals of the Mist on the high difficulties, but for the most part, you're going to have to go through the crafting route to get your Ascended gear, and that's not so pleasant. So to get the Ascended armor and weapons through crafting, first of all, you're going to need a shitload of gold, so find ways to make gold. I have a gold making guide on my channel. I highly recommend watching that if you need someplace to start. I have a lot of good content, and then a lot of people have commented with ideas on how to make good gold. So look at that. The biggest thing you need to do, get the crafting discipline related to your Ascended armor and weapons to 500 as efficiently as possible, because that's going to cost a lot of gold, regardless of how you do it, so try to do it the cheapest way. And then once you do that, you want to immediately begin crafting the Ascended materials, because you can only craft Ascended materials once a day, and they cost quite a bit of gold. The leather working one, that Ascended material, I can't remember the name of the leather thing for the life of me, but it costs about 15 gold to make it, so be very, very good with your money at that point. Once you get what you need, you can obviously get the inscriptions, which aren't cheap either, and then craft the armor. And that's why you really need to make sure that which armor stats you're going with are the ones you want. It's an expensive route, it takes a lot of time, and you don't want to get all the way through your armor and be like, oh, I've spent 2 months doing this, and now I've decided I want to do something else. It sucks. Finally, once you've gotten all your Ascended gear, the final task is to get your legendaries. Your legendaries, some people don't like them because they're just as good as Ascended, but they can never go out of date, they're never obsolete because they get upgraded when new armor comes out, and then, you know, they look badass. But this is literally probably the ultimate grind. You need full map completion, quite a bit of gold, 400 crafting in 2 different crafting disciplines. You need a humongous amount of collectibles, and you also need the precursor, which can only be bought with a shitload of gold or farmed through world events and other rare events. It's really hard to get them, but if you can get them, that is like the pinnacle of, you know, the best of the best. So look up how to get your legendaries, because it's a lot of work, but that is the way to become the best of the best. Now, if you can just grind through all of that shit, I applaud you, because there's no way I could do that. But for the majority of you, like me, you need to take breaks, or otherwise you're going to get sick of it. So here are some ideas of how you can kind of spread out the pain of the grind. First of all, try out the Living Story stuff if you haven't. It's pretty fun. Go and explore all those things that you haven't really done. You know, the PvP area, like the standard PvP, it doesn't run on the same level spectrum as the regular game does, and pretty much everyone's on an even playing field, so that's a good thing to check out. Go and check out the dungeons and world events and other things you haven't done yet. Give them a whirl. Make a new character. See if you like anything that's new. You know, try a new class, try new builds, get your exotic gear for new builds. All those types of things will kind of help occupy your mind while you're bored as fuck grinding your way up. Achievement farming is another huge thing people like to do to try to kill some time. And then, if all else fails, take a break and play a different game. You know, obviously, if you don't log on for the day, you're not going to get your ascended piece for the day or whatever it is. It's going to take you longer. But I would much rather spend 3 months, you know, on and off on Guild Wars 2 and finally get to the end rather than grind my way all the way up for the month and be completely sick of the game and not want to touch it for years. So, you know, it's a balance. You have to balance what you can handle with what is going on. And then even outside of that, if you just get sick of video games, go do something, you know, go play with friends, go find a job, go do more other things that don't involve video games, but find a way to use your time wisely, and eventually, with enough effort, you will become the best that there is. So hopefully that gives people a general direction on where they should be heading. As I said, for the new and the old, if you're not sure how to get where you're going, this should give you an idea on where you should go. If you have any questions for me, leave a comment. If you have any tips, because for me, I haven't gotten that far. I have all my Ascended gear, but I can't get my Legendaries for the life of me. So, you know, people should leave comments that have already done that. If you've already gotten through the grind, give people tips on how they can get through it. What tactics did you use? You know, what are ways that they can make it a little more enjoyable? Things like that. And obviously, don't do it is an option, so you don't have to say don't do it in the comments, but anyway, that's going to be this video, guys. I'm trying to update most of my Guild Wars 2 content, so let me know what you want to see, and I will see you guys next time. Peace.